Welcome back to Your 1230, the only podcast where our guests tell their story with the help of 12 questions in only 30 minutes. I'm your host, Mike Salitro, and today we are very, very excited to be joined by Matt and Josh Kuchar. Matt is the founder and CEO, and Josh, the director of marketing and sales of Showami. Gentlemen, welcome. We are thrilled to have you both here with us.
We're
Thanks.
excited to be here.
Now, I'm going to mispronounce it. Showami. How did it start? Where does the name come from, and what is it?
No, you nailed it. You're perfect. So I was in Denver. I was a busy real estate agent, tried to take a day off skiing, and got up on the slopes. And just as I got up there, I got a call from a buyer going like, "Hey, I got to go see this home today." And at that time in Denver, stuff was flying off the market in hours, right? And so I did what every agent would do. I was at a KW office and I just started calling. And I spent the next like 30, 45 minutes calling, texting, trying to get someone to pick it up. I finally got somebody, and and then we had this awkward conversation like, am I going to pay you? Are we trading off? How is this going to work? Like, and they were my clients. Like, I've known them for years, had sold them a house in the past. So it's a repeat business. Anyway, we ended up agreeing. I was like, hey, I'll just give you $100. She went, showed the home. I wrote the contract, got it under contract, and got the people the house. But I was having a beer with a friend later, and I was like, this was so inefficient. First of all, it took me an hour. I asked an agent who was in Highlands Ranch to drive to downtown Denver, right? So that's a 45-minute to an hour drive, and it was 5 o'clock on a Friday. It would have been so much more efficient to have somebody in downtown Denver show the home, we're having a beer just kind of on the napkin. You always hear, we wrote this on a business plan on a napkin. We literally wrote it on a napkin in at Perry's Pizza in Highlands Ranch. And then went through the whole process of hiring developers, doing the concept, the MVPs. And that was in 2016. We launched. And here we are today, over 100,000 users, and wow. We're approaching over 200,000 showings.
Wow, those impressive numbers. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. Just taking a step back, all of us are in the real estate field, so we all have that time in our businesses where we need somebody to pinch it, fill in for us, and either geography or we're doing something else that doesn't allow us to. So you came up with a business model that allows it to not be a problem and to do so efficiently. What I didn't mention up top is that not only work together, but you're also a father and son team. Josh, how did you start working together, and has it been what you thought it would be, and why not?
Sure. So funny story is I would say in Matt's first 4 years of owning Showami, he always told me, you're not going to work on my team. You're not going to work for me. You're not going to work at Showami. And this, what I did was a lot of consulting on the side for him. So I'd help run ads, help run different strategies to help grow the business the best that I could, kind of give some insight early on before tipping was part of Showami. That was something that I helped introduce, was the whole tipping feature, which really grew us from, I think it was like 100 agents to almost 1,000 within the next month. It was a whole nother game plan of just pricing. So I've been working in marketing for a number of years. Matt approaches me at quite the opportune time where I literally had one of my favorite jobs. I was working with a prior boss in just an amazing situation. He says, well, I'm going to offer you an offer you just can't refuse. You're going to come work with me. You're going to have part ownership in this, all these things. And so I said, yeah, I can't refuse that offer. And I think what really hit my dad and I we were sitting down for Father's Day with my two sisters, grabbing coffee. And my dad again mentioned, no, you're not going to come work for me. And my sister goes, you guys already talk about work 24/7. Just go, let him, just do it already. They're like, we'll actually hear less of it because you get it out. So there's that part of the story for sure.
Is that pretty true, Matt? Is that how you remember it as well?
Yeah. And, I finally was like, I started looking around, right? All right. I need marketing. I need sales. We're growing. it's no longer a one-man show and some virtual assistants. We have to make this legit. And there wasn't anybody else that I knew that, first of all, I could trust, because I trust my son. He's very honest. I also knew his work ethic, how much he would work. Like when I would text him during work, he would never respond. He would wait till 5:15 because he's like, I'm at work, Dad. I'm not gonna be taking personal text during work. And I was like, wow, like that's high ethics. And so, and besides, I had spent all that money on college. I need to get a return on investment from all my college bills that I had to pay for.
Well said. All right, I like that. But seriously, you mentioned trust, which is I get to talk to a lot of entrepreneurs in all fields, and that first hire or that next step is a difficult one because, as you referenced, that one man show or this is my baby. I've been working on this for X amount of years, and for it to grow properly, I need to expand. Whether it's changing what we offer, changing our service, adding a new product, or bringing on a team, I have to work with people that I trust. So having that relationship, I'm sure helps, but your team has grown outside of the two of you. How are you identifying talent and seeing that it makes sense to work together? As you mentioned, 100,000 users, that's very impressive. So how have you done that?
Yeah. So I also kind of got lucky with my first developer. So he built it, but he was working. I hired a development company, right? So when we say development, it's software development, and they built it. They did everything that from ground up, and then they were done, right? That's how you build an MVP. When you build software, you build so much, pay for it, and then it's yours. And then you kind of are left trying to figure out, how do I get upgrades done and everything. Fast forward about 3 years later, in 2019, we're starting to grow. I'm seeing that I need help, and my developer Alex, who had built it. I already, we always got along, but his company was starting to, where he was working wasn't working so well, and a mutual friend was like, "Hey, you guys should talk together." So he was my first hire, but it was natural, right? Like there was nobody who knew the software better than Alex. So why wouldn't you hire the guy that built it? And so we brought him on, and we actually were able to work out. I couldn't afford what he was really worth, right? Because we weren't making that much money at the time. But we worked out equity, and also worked out, hey, I'm only going to have you for 20 to 30 hours a week. And, knowing that eventually when revenue picks up and we can run a balanced budget, I can bring you on full time. And like, I come from I guess a mindset of like, this is bootstrapped, right? So we used cash. I didn't borrow money from family or anybody like that. So I wanted it to be generating enough revenue to pay for itself and pay for the employees before I ever brought them on, which is quite different than the VC world, right? The VC, let's throw a bunch of money, let's hope it works. I couldn't see that. So anyway, I brought him on, and then we got busier. I got some virtual assistants. I went as far as I could with the virtual assistants doing things until I really need to hire someone that I didn't know. And that first hire was Christina. And that was just an Indeed ad, interviewed many people, narrowed it down to my top three. And then I had a coach mentor that I really, really honored. And I was like, "Hey, Jessica, can you interview these three people and tell me what your gut is?" And so once we both met, she's like, "You'd be happy with any of them, but I'd go with Christina." And she's been with us ever since.
Awesome. It's a great process you describe, especially getting to the point where you're collaborating with others that can give you that insight. They know what your working style is like, and can give you kind of the direction that you need to build out the right team. Uh, you mentioned starting in 2016. We are now already in the third quarter of 2023. The real estate market has, always is cyclical, but the last 4 or 5 years specifically, we've seen a lot of changes. Josh, how has the product? We'll start there. Do you consider Showami product service? Obviously, it's a service, but what have you delivered differently given the market to your clients, and who should reach out to you to find out what you guys offer?
Sure. So what we found over time is various use cases. I think that was the biggest thing over the last 5 years was we couldn't just be a one trick pony, which is strictly home showings. We needed to be anything from a what we call a virtual tour showing where somebody's holding a phone and walking through, on like a Zoom call with the person, which we also think is very unique to COVID time, right? So during COVID, that was very popular. It's something that we saw more, and people adapted and created that as a cultural thing. That's sort of like, okay, if I'm going to trust somebody else to show my house, I would just prefer to also still be there somewhat in whatever case possible. Also, it allows the agent to see it if they're multi-states, if they're on vacation. We see use cases like that. We're also seeing a lot more open houses. So the request for people to hold open houses, which culturally I think was very interesting, that we when we launched that product, we were like, is this going to stick? Because the reason why is because if you've got somebody in your brokerage, traditionally you've always just had somebody host it for free if you're unavailable, and they kept the leads when they walked in. That was just how business has always been done. But we're seeing more and more that people are like, no, we actually need to value somebody else's time. If they're going to sit in and they're going to do this and they're going to take the time to walk people through, I need to value that. So I'm going to actually pay a couple bucks for this person. And you know what? I'm actually can keep the leads, or I'm going to allow them to give them. We'll split them. We'll figure that out later. So I think seeing the fact that there is a change even in the most simple tasks that we typically look at in the real estate market, it just keeps evolving. And so that's why our product, we've just continued to evolve it as needed to what we're hearing. What are people asking for? We got asked for rental tours, and rental tours boomed. That was like, we onboarded it and we were seeing like, yeah, this is instant. People love this thing. So I love where we're heading, especially with the fact that we really are adaptive to the market situations. And even just this, Matt and I were talking about this year. This year came through with a very unique sense in that the hike happened about a month later than it typically would. We saw this huge surge, a whole month shift. Usually May, we see a large boom in real estate, and it just pushed off till June. And so we were all sitting there going like, huh, I guess these interest rates really do make a difference.
No, thank you for walking us through that. There's two things I want to highlight that you said that were really excellent. The first, the adaptive piece, going back to a lot of entrepreneurial ventures, where they make or break is the ability to deviate from what they originally set out to do, and are they willing to offer more, offer something a little different than they may have visioned because either the market dictates it or that worked then, but now we're going somewhere else. Can you still help me solve my problem? So I love how you describe that. And the other piece I want to catch, because you both have mentioned it, the ability to have a agreement in place where you're valuing the other person's time, where someone is helping you out or providing a service on your behalf. And in real estate, that's something that never, I don't say never, does not usually get talked about upfront. And then when there are financial ramifications, it goes from awkward to now we've got a real dispute in our hands because that's my client. You owe me this. We didn't talk about it. Who knows? So you eliminate multiple problems there. So I want to highlight that not only has somebody fill in for you, but it takes care of that compensation piece, which is really a big deal because it's something you don't think about till it's too late. So that's excellent that was a central piece of your business. So before we hit record, you had mentioned that you are seeing some activity on the listing side as well. I'll throw it to either of you. What is that shift, and where do you see that going?
Matt, you
I'll
want
take
to take this one? You want me to
Yeah,
take
I'll take it. So, um, one of the problems that listing agents have is, if a listing is in their geographic area, totally easy, right? I could go show it. But oftentimes now, especially with the internet and some of these people who are using our platform, their reach is much broader. Maybe the property is an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away. We have brokers that are in multiple states. They go between states. We've got a lot of snowbirds that are in Florida and in Illinois and New Jersey and places like that. And they're licensed in both, and they go between the two. And, in the past, they would just do referrals or they wouldn't be able to handle the business. But now, because they can get help with showings, they're taking those listings instead of referring them. And oftentimes these are clients that they've had, lifelong relationships with. They've known them forever, right? And so they trust them, and they can get the data, they can get the MLS data, everything's fine. All they need is someone to go open the door. And so we're starting to see that on the list side with the the current lawsuits and the things like that that are kind of working their way towards the courts. We don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does, right? It's you hear all these different arguments, but it is changing. And so one of the things that we think is that eventually, if the buyer does have to pay for the buyer's commission, oftentimes that buyer may decide to go straight to the listing agent to avoid, having to pay or reducing their cost. And so that's why we're starting to lean heavily towards the listing side and seeing that as the biggest opportunity. I don't know if you saw in the news recently that Zillow, some of their more recent announcements, and they own Showing Time. Showing Time's trying to they bought a big property photography business, and that's nationwide. So that was one of their more recent purchases, and they're doing these listing enhancements. And because if you think about it, Zillow has relied primarily on making money off of buyers and referral fees. And I think they get 35% of any commission that an agent gets through them. Well, what's going to happen if that starts to dry up and the buyers are going straight to the sellers? You could tell Zillow thinks that investing on the listing side is where they need to be investing. And I think that's, if I'm going to follow, I'm going to go like, okay, if these companies with billions and billions of dollars are starting to focus on this, I better look at my business model and see, hey, is this where I need to be focusing on, and what products can I serve them? And one of them was up the client portal. When we built the client portal, there were a few clients that really wanted this. And I'll give you an idea what a client portal is. So let's say I'm a Showami agent, and I have my client, I want them to tell me the date and the time. They could go on to their portal and they could enter in the date, time. I don't have to enter the address. They can do everything. They can basically schedule it. And all I'm doing is going, yes, So that's how that originally was built. Well, now some of them were like, hey, my client wants to pay for it. So we put in a credit card where the client could actually pay for the showing themselves. So we're starting to see a lot more different models and different ways to do business that are coming out of this. But definitely the listing side is something we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, as you described that optionality, Matt, that goes back to, again, offering your clients, your users, your customers what they want when they need it, and how to bring them their solution in the way that they need as the market changes. So that's, as you can remain adaptive and offer that, you're going to just continue to see better word of mouth and that showing number increase. And I wrote down, as you mentioned, that one of the first things someone told me when I started my real estate career was you list to last. That's the way to stay in the business. So it makes sense to target that side of the business. Well, we've known each other for a while, and we've been on a few calls. I've never asked you this, but I think I know. I'm going to throw it to both of you. You both, for those just listening to us, you both are in orange sport coats. Where does that come from, and why?
Sure. So Matt said, Josh, when we go to our first conference, we have to do something that makes a difference. We need to stand out. We're a brand new tech company. We're going to our first conference. What ideas, he threw it to the team. We all were discussing different things. We have a glow booth, all that stuff. But I was like, what if we just wore orange suits? It's still classy. So we've got pants to go along with it. It's still formal enough to actually wear to a real estate conference and not completely look like a clown. but it kind of stuck. It stuck to a point where we went to the conference, right? So I had been doing emails for about a month before about talking to the guys in the orange suits. Talk to the guys, go visit these guys at booth 561 or whatever the booth number was. And I'm standing in line to get a bagel. Woman's next to me, and she's like, "Guess what?" And I was like, "What?" I have no idea who the heck you are. She's like, "I brought an orange dress to take a photo with you guys." And so, since then, and since like, I think we always were like, do we keep the orange suits? These are awesome. They work. Do we get rid of them? The more that we keep going to conferences, the more that people are like, literally tell other people, hey, you need to go find the orange suit guy, go talk to him. Your problem is not with them. I tell you, they can walk whatever conference floor. You're going to only find our sets of orange suit guys walking around. So it makes us very identifiable. And so it's been a great, great way of growing. It's been fun. It's definitely different, but yeah, that's why we always have our orange suits was part of our branding now.
That's what I thought. And actually, I cannot think of the name of the book. I'm sure you've read it, Jesse Cole, or yeah, Jesse Cole, Savannah Bananas. He wears a yellow tuxedo to every game. He's basically redone the way that baseball is done for the in stadium experience. And I assume it's like these guys are genius because you're doing something very similar. And just like that woman in the orange dress, like I know the orange suit guys. I want to take a picture with them, and that's word of mouth, and that's beyond what that you can't buy that. So well done and well played.
Thanks. It's so much fun and people love it. We do get asked on a regular basis to take photos with people. Just like, oh, the orange suit guys are here. Then somebody's like, my personal favorite is literally we walk down the road and you can see people are like whispering, right? And they're like, oh no, you don't know who they are. Or Matt's favorite is when I walk by the competitors and they all know exactly who you are real quick.
It is tough to
Even
blend
better.
in, but it certainly serves the purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll throw this back to we'll start with Matt. Where do you see both the real estate market in kind of your how you fit into it going forward? What's next, or what's something we should be on the lookout for as we wrap up somehow 2023 and into 2024? I know it's tough to pin down, but what do you think we're going to be looking at?
Change. If I had one word, and it's what I'm hearing from everybody, it's definitely going to be change. No matter who wins this lawsuit, there's definitely some change that's coming. But I think those who figure out how to do business in the new way of doing business, I think focusing on listings, obviously the people with the listings are going to do fine. And this, I also would say, the change it'll take time, right? You're gonna see things over time. It's not gonna happen all at once, but you'll notice a shift, you'll see a change. A couple of things that I also think are going to be huge that are happening or beginning to happen. Um, I think we're at the peak of the interest rates right now, right? And the peak of no inventory. So as interest rates level out, potentially get dropped back down around 6 or below, the minute that happens, you're going to see a lot of people all of a sudden starting to put some homes on the market. You're going to see a lot of people wanting to buy. So, this year has been really hard. I would say, just make it through this year. Do as well as you can, not just make it through, right? We want to thrive in all situations. But once the interest rates get back to maybe a more balanced or a more normal market and inventory starts to do that, there's going to be a lot of transactions that are going to take place. So those who can make it through this dry time, they're going to do really, really well.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I sit there and I heard Matt say that it's the peak of the interest rates. I kind of see there possibly being just one more based off of the most recent inflation numbers. I don't see it being a big rate hike, but just one more little hike. And then I start seeing us level back down. I see the rates starting to drop a little bit. And then it's just a matter of inventory kind of driving the conversation. I think that's the one piece that seemed to be really mixed right now. If inventory does all of a sudden increase, if we find a way to make homes at a lower cost and actually can produce them on a regular basis as a nation, then we're going to start seeing that home prices will start going down now that inventory is back up. But I think regardless, I think, Matt, I agree with you that there's a lot of adaptability about to happen. We are seeing a lot of different things going on in the world as a whole. It doesn't just have to deal with real estate. Yes, we have what's going on with the lawsuits. Those can all take place or not take place. But you've also now got all these data privacy laws. A lot of real estate agents have been, really using data more than any other industry. In fact, they, I believe, are over 70% of the revenue for most data companies. So when you start looking at that and you start looking at companies that are starting to really restrict the amount of data, it's going to cause the price of data to increase, but it will also cause people to rethink their strategies. They're going to have to become, and I love this, we're going to have to become more personable. We need to build meaningful relationships. We can sit down and we can be running Google ads, Facebook ads, all these things to generate leads, but eventually those things are going to become more and more expensive as data becomes more and more expensive. And as we see those companies start to restrict your usage of it. In fact, I mean, Matt and I can sit here and tell you I'm already upset with Google Analytics because they put a threshold on how much they're allowed to show me now. It ticks me off. So I see that continually happening. I think it's less and less transparency with data. We're going to not know who we're actually advertising to, and that's going to cause things to drive up.
Good answers, good insights. Thank you for sharing those. As we somehow are already on time, well, I'll leave it here. I am always all over the place, but I generally forget to ask a question. So we'll start with you, Josh. What's something I didn't ask you that I probably should have tonight?
Something you didn't ask me that you should have asked me tonight. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
All right, we'll take it. Matt, anything I should have asked you?
Yeah. So, like, what books am I reading? What would I recommend? And I'll give you this one that I've been totally enthralled with. I think it's really, really, really great, and it is called, oh my gosh, The Obstacle is the Way.
That's a great book.
Oh, you read it? Yeah.
Yes.
The timeless art of turning trials into triumph by Ryan Holiday. Great book, especially for this season, right? We have lots of obstacles that are coming our way. That's what I would share.
Excellent choice. I will post that in the show notes as well. Josh, will you jump back in here? Anything that jumped into your head? What are you reading?
Here we go. Oh, well, I'm actually in between trying to find a book. So now I'm like, but no. So what should agents be doing today, marketing wise, to grow for tomorrow? Especially with the rise of ChatGPT, the data privacy issues, Facebook, YouTube algorithm, or Facebook, Google algorithms, Zillow coming in, everybody going on. If I were an agent today, I think one of the areas that I'd be sitting down and investing in is going to be in video, and I really strongly go for YouTube. I think YouTube's one of the few areas that, AI can't really touch as much. It can write the descriptions, but you as a person are still in front of the camera, and it will still favor those over AI bots sitting there doing videos. So I think if you can get in front of cameras, there's so much hours of time being consumed by video. I think you could really, really drive home your niche market or your market as a whole and become the expert just strictly by pushing yourself onto YouTube. And it's what I'm hearing a lot of people talk about. So
very nice. Good addition there. Where can our listeners find both of you? Where can they learn more about Showami?
Sure. So they can find us at Showami.com. We have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I even started a freaking TikTok recently, so we're on TikTok now. But you can essentially find us on any of the major social media channels. Matt and I, you can connect with either of us or both of us via LinkedIn. We're both very active on LinkedIn. In fact, we're both trying to post on a regular basis, trying to comment and talk to people on LinkedIn. But if you message us on LinkedIn, you're very, very likely to hear from one of us back.
Yep.
I'll post all those. I can verify. I think that's how we got connected over a year ago on LinkedIn chatting, and I'm glad we did. You have great stuff on most of your channels that I've seen. So good advice, fun stuff, practical advice. So check it out. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a blast, and I do look forward to doing it again. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike.